being mindful of that as part of your data strategy now will just make sure you're set for success and there's less rework in terms of that strategy, that foundation you're building. I think is key, just having sight of that, how fast that agentic AI strategy is moving towards, and what does your data need to be doing and complementing that strategy. You can no longer look at a data strategy as a separate strategy to your AI strategy. They both need to be integrated and thought out collectively.
So hello and welcome to another episode of the Katchr Podcast. Today's guest spends most of her time thinking about something that most people only really notice when it's broken, and that's data. We all keep hearing AI is going to transform law firms, but Raj thinks that most firms are actually trying to build a roof before they've built the foundations, and I think that's fascinating. So welcome, Raj. Raj Boora is Global Head of Data for international law firm Pinsent Masons. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Graham. Thanks for inviting me today.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. So can I start with a question? What problem are you trying to solve that really keeps you awake at night at the moment?
I guess the problem I'm trying to resolve is, especially the space we're in at the moment, this whole AI disrupting the legal space, is ensuring we've got our foundation aligned to prepare us for that AI generation. And also the way ahead of how it's going is really rapid, that actually I just want to make sure that have we actually got our foundation in place and it's governed properly. And it's all well and good having all the right technology there, and it's all doing it. But actually, when you look under the hood, have we actually got the right governance? And that's the key thing that I really want to focus on, and I am focusing on, which tends to keep me up at night, is worrying about have we got the right people aligned to this and the right accountability before that data is shipped out and used.
Yeah, I think there is a realization now that, the data, probably more than the technology, is the limiting factor. When would you say you realized that? What was the thing that really brought it home to you?
I guess historically, we've always thought around data, around that enterprise data, bringing it into one place. But with the AI piece and legal tech solutions that are having built-in AI already in there, that starts harnessing, using that data quite quickly, you start losing that control of where's that data now gone over to, and it's not actually in one place like it used. Like initially, the concept has always been, we're going to push this data out into a lakehouse, all the data is going to go in one place and it's all secured. But actually, things are changing so rapidly that that's no longer the situation. And quite quickly, you'll see it's actually in different sources. Is that governance has then disappeared very quickly.
There's a lot of change happening very fast, and that can be difficult to control, can't it?
Yeah.
What would you say is the biggest misconception people have about data quality, about data governance?
I think everyone confuses data governance with data security, because they think, well, we understand it, we know what we're talking about is security, but it actually is not security. It's actually ownership, accountability. Majority of it is not, and it's not even data quality, because I think we focus more on technology when we start saying data governance. But it's actually just accountability, and it's simple as that. Actually, it's all around the people side, which we kind of miss when we say, we want the data governed, and we really focus on the security when we're saying governed, and the technology is going to do it for us. And it's very unlikely that actually we steer towards it's the people piece first that we need to resolve rather than the technology. So I think that's a misconception of data governance, is actually it's a security and a privacy issue, but it's actually a people problem.
Yeah, and people generally are the problem, aren't they?
that's usually the case. Yeah, and that's the most difficult to resolve. It's a big challenge for any law firm or any company in any industry.
Yeah, it is something that data is something that historically has just been seen as a tech issue.
Yeah.
and it's very much moving beyond that now, isn't it? And so, have you got some examples of how you see that manifesting itself, not necessarily within your firm, but in conversations you've had with other people or other organisations?
So what I feel is, especially again, the AI conversation is bringing that more to light in terms of those conversations need to be had. And they are now becoming more apparent and required as a critical way forward as part of a data strategy. So I can really see that actually data governance is getting airtime, I guess. So how it needs to be kind of positioned on a data strategy piece. But equally, it's more around, and I think the piece of how that's all kind of manifesting is around the upskilling required and the literacy around AI, really understanding how we're using those tools, is that now ensuring that that focus is now becoming on data governance is around that people piece. How do we bring the two together to make sure there's confidence in using the legal tech, the AI tools, but equally understanding, do we have some sort of accountability around that and that governance around that and how it's being used? So that going through that term, that human in the loop piece is going to be critical. And I think this is how it's all going to be manifested into kind of an AI strategy. That human in the loop is essentially your data governance.
I think when we spoke before about this, you said that governance shouldn't be a separate program. It needs to be integrated into everything that you're doing. Can you explain that a bit more?
Yes, definitely. So I guess, I mean, when we've kind of carried out data governance at Pinsent Masons, it was a kind of side of desk activity, and generally is probably with our finance functions, BD functions, it is kind of a side of desk piece that you just do. But it's actually, it doesn't really stick. So it may stick in kind of small teams, individuals are doing it, but it's actually not being led as a strategic priority. And I think that's where it starts breaking down in terms of that data governance process, if it's only just being followed as a best endeavours. And what I feel is having that exec sponsorship tied in to a strategic priority or another capability that we're bringing alongside, it needs to be intertwined with those capabilities. Doing data governance for the sake of it is just not going to prove any value to a law firm. We're too busy, our fee earners are too busy, and we can't actually refocus them and waste their time doing data governance. As much as me as being a data professional, a technology purist, is the right thing to be doing, but is it the right thing to be doing from a business value, commercial perspective? And that's the hat you probably need to have on to see actually why we're doing data governance, not just as a best practice, but what value does it bring other capabilities, and make sure they link together.
Yeah, you mentioned in that executive sponsorship or exec buy-in. How have you gone about actually getting that? Because I know that's been really key for you.
I guess really going back to that business problem, what we're trying to resolve, and articulating that to our board to say actually we're missing opportunities, or we're missing growth opportunities there, or actually we've got operational inefficiencies going on in different areas, key critical processes that are actually stalling in terms of not doing data governance. So, and bringing that to life in terms of that business problem a data governance capability can bring and move forward in the right direction, really kind of puts it into perspective. But if you go down that route of, data governance is the right thing to do from a technologist perspective, it doesn't really sit with the board really justifying we need to do it, because we've got this far already without it. Why do we need it now? So, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, and sometimes a difficult question to answer. So, would you say there's one particular message or one particular way of doing that's really worked for you? Something practical that people can take away?
Yeah, definitely practical one that I took away. So it's starting small. So when we look at data governance, is we start thinking about every single function, and actually we need to roll out data governance across everyone. But actually, if you start small and maybe one use case, one particular small team, but actually has the right seniority around that in terms of actually is it's a particular use case for a client, let's say, And let's have a look at our case and task management system. So that's where I started, is the case and task management system. We're bringing data into that. We're tracking data at different phases, but equally we want to present this back to the client on a timely fashion. Is that actually happening? And I was able to identify that through the data set that was being produced by our fee earners, but actually, is it being shipped out to our clients at a timely manner? And actually, are we giving them the right information? It was quite interesting to see that, bringing that to life through a dashboard, showing that to our partners to say, actually, here's our gaps and here's our issues around this critical data that might be critical from the case and task management system in terms of getting it in and starting the work, is actually delaying things because actually it doesn't get updated in time for the client to see that progress being made. So we were able to articulate that through a set of processes and through a dashboard, where the partner could easily see where the pitfalls were and actually identify who the fee earners he needed to speak to make sure we've got that process aligned. And sometimes it could just be, someone's been away for 2 weeks and it's actually stalled, the progress has stalled, but no one's picked up that or recognised. Someone else needs to address that while someone's been away. And it could be as simple as that. So it brought quite a few issues to life and to light in order to rectify quite quickly.
Yeah, so you're actually using data about the data and bringing that to life for the management. Yeah, and that's
powerful stuff for any partner to see in real life, in real time, and actually taking action on it. So there's always a call to action to that data rather than the so what.
Okay, a lot of our listeners are in the finance function, finance leaders within law firms. So where does finance fit into this story? What are their roles? What are their obligations? What's the contribution they can make?
I guess with finance and within any law firm, I would say that's probably where majority of our single source lies in our finance systems. That's where all the matters are generated, all the time recording is captured, the cost, the billing. So actually, majority of the data, the core data of any law firm on how it operates and generates revenue comes from finance. And I think they play a very pivotal role in the data strategy, in the data governance capabilities, and they are the center of any data strategy being a success in a law firm.
Yeah, yes, it's really important. I think, as you said before, governance possibly seen as a more technical thing. It really needs to be brought into those business functions and owned, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, that's right. And I guess it becomes more powerful when you then link and have that cross-functional ownership, because then rather than just looking at finance as a siloed entity or data set, you can then start linking that back to other, critical information and business areas for example, opportunities and our CRM systems and client data. So it starts becoming very powerful where you then start linking the functions, data sets.
And siloed data is a huge problem within law firms, within most law firms in our experience. Yeah. How have you addressed that?
The key way to address that again is identifying where's that cross-functional link. What are we trying to achieve from the multiple sources of information? And we are capturing different, and the data is all fragmented, like you say, in different systems, CRM systems, practice management systems, case and task management systems, and even in HR. But actually, we've all got a different flavor. So it's not actually incorrect based on how it's being used in that particular function. But when you want to bring all of that information together, it is quite fragmented. And actually, at what point is this correct? It may be correct in a CRM perspective, but it may not be correct from a HR perspective because it's probably out of date or the company name's changed now or there's another subsidiary. So it's things like that way. It is very fragmented, and it's key that you identify that actually where is that fragmentation and how do you bring that information together?
Yes, and that sort of brings us on to a very closely related topic, which is master data management. When you've got potentially multiple copies of data, and we had an interesting conversation about this before. I think you've got some strong views on where this fits and how important it is. So what's your take on master data management?
So I guess in simplest terms, I would say it's just essentially your core critical data sets that actually drive the business to make decisions. So from a law firm perspective, we would say these are our clients, our matters, our people, and we can identify them quite quickly. So that I would say is our master data. But what we tend to do is we make it really complicated and technical. And we think it's a technical issue that we need to bring this together, but actually it's a business problem yet again. And it's having that discipline of creating that trusted version of that core master data, even though, like you say, it's in those multiple systems, and they probably mean slightly different things depending on who you're talking to. And it's how do you bridge that gap? Because the question you probably want to ask across, your finance teams, your BD and your GCO teams is, who is our client? Now, from a finance perspective, it might be slightly different. And a GCO and a BD, they might have a different flavor, and they would probably be starting at different points of that truth. And it's how do you bring all of that information together to all have the same answer to who is our client?
And solving that can seem like a huge daunting problem when you look at all the data across the firm. But it's not necessarily something that has to be managed in or addressed in one go. I think that that's one of the things that we talked about. What's the approach that you've taken at your firm?
I guess what I didn't want to do was kind of start with perfection, to say actually we are going to perfect all of our core data sets in one go, because that is prone to fail, because it'd be months and months of preparing, debating, and actually we're not going to resolve anything. We're not going to resolve any business problems. So the approach I took was starting small yet again on master data. Where are we going to get the most highest impact with low effort? And that is the key. And I guess the challenge with master data management and those types of data programs is they tend to fail because we spend a lot of time debating the tooling rather than debating and addressing the business problem that we're trying to resolve and the value that would bring. And it's very complicated to actually justify the return on investment on an MDM tooling, because it would take at least a year or so to realize that value. And if you start small, you can then identify actually how are we bringing real value based on the time we've spent on this? And you can then slowly track that through the value it brings for that bigger vision. And then it becomes easier to sell if you can show that value quite quickly with low effort. And that doesn't necessarily mean a tooling that you need. You could probably do it other ways with whatever you've got available.
Yeah, I think when we last spoke, you said something that really struck with me, which was that firms make the problems so big that they never actually start.
Yes. And I think it always goes down to those months of debating, who owns this data, and actually, is this the right data we need to take forward? And it's those questions. And again, and that's that data governance piece, that data governance conversations could be happening now rather than introducing that program and then having those, which delays that bringing that value to life.
Yeah. So if you only had 3 months to kick off a master data management project, where would you start?
So I would start, and that's exactly what we're doing at the moment at Pinsent Masons. So I'm actually focusing on that 3-month window to show value through master data, and identify on the core critical entity or master data domain, as some would say, is that core data set that proves to be the most value. And I think every law firm would be different. You need to align it to your strategic priorities. You're only going to show the value if it's aligned to your business strategy and your strategic priorities. If you're thinking, actually, this is a real pain point and this will be a great use case for master data management, and actually it only proves operational efficiencies, it's not going to sit well with the board to say, actually, we're going to put all our money and invest in this approach. Yes, it could be a byproduct of showing that real value to the business, but I think focus on where do you want to show the impact and where's your biggest pain point in the business right now.
Yeah, I think that's a really key point, that it's not the same answer for everybody, and
yes,
each business will have their own priorities, and focusing on those. Yeah, absolutely. We started off talking about the foundations and really master data management and government are the foundations of your data and your data strategy. AI has really started to change everything. So if we look forward to 2030 and look back at today, what do you think we'll be laughing at? What are the things that people really haven't got right at the moment that's going to come out over the next few years?
Well, that's a difficult one because I think 2030, I think it's going to be a whole different world out there in terms of even how we use data and how it's actually been consumed. But I guess we'll be probably talking more around agents and assistants and that intelligent decision support rather than actually thinking about dashboards and reporting. I think that will be something of the past. And I think looking back at that, we'd be thinking, why did we always look at analytical, historical data when there's no need to? And why didn't we actually put our efforts on the forward in the next 5 years and focus on that data set? What could that real value be? And I think over time, we spent many years in terms of data strategies looking at that analytical reporting, always looking back 5 years. But I think the way the world is going in 2030, we'll be always looking at what's going to be happening in 2040 rather than what happened in 2020. So I think that's going to be quite interesting and how we move in that direction to have that concept.
Yeah, as we say, it's going to change absolutely everything. Do you find that scary? Do you find that exciting?
I think it's exciting. I think it's so powerful what you can do with data and how you can move from those productivity efficiencies in a matter of minutes, and where before even creating a dashboard can take seconds now, as opposed to having someone sitting there for 2 days testing it and validating it. So it's an exciting time. It allows you to continually grow and learn from the intelligence that these agents will bring, but also the scalability is something that the humans never did that you can now do with AI. I think is very exciting.
So to make all this work, we're back to the foundations again. One of the things we've talked about was everyone building lake houses at the moment. And I think last time we spoke, you suggested something quite different. Can you talk me through that?
Yeah, so I guess in terms of looking at our enterprise data strategy, we've always, and like I said earlier, we always focused on that one lake house, bringing all your data into this one lake house. That becomes your single source of truth. But actually, you don't probably need a lake house that has all of your data in there. That is your single source of truth. It could still be in a different area, still governed, controlled, but it doesn't necessarily need to sit hand in hand with your finance data and your HR data in one place. And I think that's quite interesting in terms of how we're moving in terms of the AI space, is your traditional enterprise data management strategy is probably not going to be viable for the AI strategy, or it needs to be more scalable than that, because there will be times where actually, you've put all your data in one place and actually it doesn't need to be, because from a consumption point of view, from a cost perspective, things will change, and things are changing rapidly in terms of those business models, in terms of the infrastructure. So it's just being mindful of that, things are moving into terms of that agent data product concept. And actually you can link these through kind of these, MCP servers, where you can link and access data from wherever you want, and an agent can call it. So why would you put it all in one lake house and, spend efforts around building those pipelines?
But that's almost an agentic data architecture.
Yes, and I think being mindful of that as part of your data strategy now will just make sure you're set for success, and there's less rework in terms of that strategy, that foundation you're building. I think is key, just having sight of that, how fast that agentic AI strategy is moving towards, and what does your data need to be doing and complementing that strategy. You can no longer look at a data strategy as a separate strategy to your AI strategy. They both need to be integrated and thought out collectively.
So one of the things that's always key to, or historically has been key to data strategy, is the data products, the sort of end end user products that are provided by that strategy. How are you thinking about those now?
Well, I guess in the past, I mean, even now, we kind of deliver solutions based on a project. So the project ends, and that's it. We've built a solution, and then that particular solution kind of evolves over time. But now I think the concept needs to be more around, you start off with a data product and actually draw out the life cycle of that data product. I think is key, because we need to move away from that concept of that project and the project just ends. With a product, the product doesn't just end when the project ends. It needs to be a life cycle and an adoption and a real roadmap in terms of the features. And generally, we introduce projects after a project to kind of evolve that product. And I think the focus needs to be more around that adoption to get the real value of that product or that solution. And that user experience is key, because that's what's going to deliver that value in terms of that user experience and the outcomes it brings. So, yeah, the concept that I introduced as part of the data solutions piece is really thinking about that adoption piece. Yes, we've delivered it now, but what happens with it in 6 months' time? Is there real value in having that in 6 months' time? Or have we thought about how we're going to improve that experience for our users?
Yeah, I think we observe a lot in the sector that work is put into some sort of data product or some sort of output that is deemed urgent at one point in time, but then the world moves on, and yeah, it almost feels like that effort is wasted or has been wasted. It had no long-term life cycle. Are you thinking of an evolution of strategy, or is this almost a complete rethink and a restart in terms of direction?
I don't think it's a restart, because I think you can always start with what you've built on in terms of your data strategy, but it's an evolution in terms of making sure it's still living and breathing the AI kind of ambitions, and is linked directly with the AI strategy. So it's really key to ensure the strategy evolves into the AI strategy as much as it needs to, and it can. Thinking of resetting the strategy just focus on data is probably not going to give you the most value and the right roadmap. So yeah, it's a case of evolving the strategy through the AI strategy.
Yeah. So you've been in this role for a few years now. If you were just joining today and starting completely from scratch, sort of thing, what would you do differently?
I guess it would be thinking of I think it's that mindset shift in terms of when we're bringing in technology. And the time when I came into Pinsent was really rolling out a BI strategy, and we were really focusing on the tooling and how great the tooling is. But again, had we thought of that as a kind of product life cycle and feature and adoption, things would have probably landed more quickly, but also we would have had far more maturity if we had the buy-in from a cultural perspective and that learning perspective. And the learning always came as an afterthought in terms of landing it, giving the value, and then we do the learning after. But I would flip that now. I actually really focus on the learning and the upskilling, because that's what brings the confidence in anyone who's using that, adopting that technology or that solution. As if you give them the confidence to use it from the outset, it will be adopted far quickly and with a better experience. And you'd also get your feedback loop in terms of how it can be improved. So yeah, I would really be focusing on, again, I would probably be focusing on that data literacy and data governance first, to ensure we focus and bring, the people on the journey rather than the tech leading the people.
Yeah, as you were saying earlier, it's all about the people, so much more than the tech. Always a challenge. That's great. I mean, we've covered quite a lot of ground there. Just to wrap up, Raj, what I'd love to do is just ask you a few rapid fire questions. So just
Sure.
whatever comes to you off the top of your head. Biggest waste of money in enterprise data?
Ooh, biggest waste of money. I think it's these discovery phases that you're going out to a vendor and they carry out this big discovery and just telling you what you already know. And it's like, actually, so what? I knew that already. But I think that's the biggest waste of money, because they're just telling you what you already know.
It's discovery for them rather than for you.
Yes.
You're paying for it. Yeah. Um, one technology that everyone overestimates.
Overestimates in what sense? Oh, nothing.
However you want to take that one.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I think it's the complexity. I think that's overestimated all the time in terms of the complexity of
Yeah.
even using the technology.
Okay. One book that every data leader should read.
I've got that here.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put it up. It is Storytelling with Data by Cole Knaflick. And it's actually a really good book which articulates how to actually sell data and to tell a story around it.
Yeah.
It is a fantastic book.
Okay, nice one. Yes, stories are at the heart of everything when it comes to engaging people, doesn't it? And finally, then, one thing you've changed your mind on recently.
Again, I think it goes back to MDM. That actually, do you need a tool to solve MDM?
Mhm.
And is there other ways to do it, especially with the agentic AI phase? There might be a use case for it, but actually you don't need to start with an MDM tool.
Yeah. Okay. So just to wrap up then, if our listeners come away from this podcast now, go back into their office, if they could just do one thing differently this week relating to data, what would you suggest?
I would say start small than you think you need to, because I think that's where you'll start getting the confidence and the value of whatever you're doing. So just start small. Don't overthink it.
That's great. Really good advice, I think, there. So thanks. This has been really, really interesting, really insightful. I know many of our listeners will take away ideas from this that they can apply. So yeah, great to have you on the show, Raj. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Graham. Lovely to talk to you.
And to everyone listening, if you found today valuable, please subscribe, share it with a colleague, and we'll see you in the next episode.